All right, welcome in Kevin Sandridge from the BBQ Beat Podcast. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, what's up, guys? So great to talk with you tonight. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I've been a big fan of your podcast since we started. You're actually, besides Malcolm Reed, you're the very first podcast I listened to about barbecue. To be honest, it was the first one that popped up on my thing. I was scrolling barbecue and it's like, oh, that one's a cool logo. Click on it. And I listened to, I want to say it was the Ben Arnett. So it was last year around June-ish when I started listening to the barbecue podcast on a serious level.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Ben's such a great guy.
Yeah, that was a cool episode. So I listened to that and I've been listening ever since. So we have talked a bunch and said, hey, we should do something. So we finally just, let's just do it. And let's get you on the show and talk about all sorts of stuff, mostly things you've learned about your podcasting experience. You have a lot of experience in blogging and barbecue, just being around it for so long. So talk about where you came from. You live in Florida, but and stuff like that. So how'd you get into barbecue? Where did that all start?
So, I think like a lot of people, when the Food Network really was rocking and talking, it's still going strong now, but back when they actually had like the shows where people were just, hi, here's my show, I'm cooking food for you. I got hooked and just like, in the 2000s, early 2000s. And at some point, one of those steak cook-offs in Texas or something, this is well before the SCA and all those guys, just one of those big festival events in the show, the people judging. And I thought, now that's the gig for me, right? Get to eat some delicious food and be in that festival atmosphere. I never had the urge to go out and compete, but I always wanted to be on the judging side and just, I'm a historian by trade. I like to know like people's narratives and their stories. And so just to get into the vibe and the scene and I grew up on a split between two farms in the summer. Both my mom and dad had farming families in Virginia and different spots of Virginia. Funny enough, my mom grew up maybe an hour from where Tuffy Stone grew up. Right. Oh, nice. So, yeah, it's one of those deals where, like the Danville area, I think he's from, Tuffy's from the Lynchburg area. So it's just one of those deals where, I just kind of got involved, kind of figured out that there was a KCBS event in Plant City, the Plant City Pig Jam. That's kind of between where I am in Winter Haven is right between Tampa and Orlando, right in the middle of the peninsula. So head towards Tampa and you're going to hit Plant City first. And so that was the first comp I ever judged. It was a KCBS comp. They had a class maybe, a month prior. So I took the class, judged it, kind of fell in love with the whole process, and actually was starting to reach out to some teams locally here, just on Facebook. Hey, does anyone do competition barbecue? I'd like to get to know a little bit more about what you're doing. And Chad Ward, actually, with Whiskey Bent Barbecue. And if you know anything about Traeger, Chad is, their marketing director, has been doing a great job with what they've been doing lately. But, he's a Polk County guy. True to form, real open dude. He's just like, hey, yeah, come hang out. This is when they were a backyard team. And, I'll never forget it. That was a Bartow, Florida event and the Bartow Barbecue and Bluegrass Festival or something like that. And they needed, you've been here, right? So they needed one more team to get to, I think, the 25.
Yeah, 25.
To jump up to pro, right? So it would be a qualifier for the Jack or for the American Royal. And at the time, Chad and those guys were backyard teams, so they jumped up to pro. And I think they even walked the stage a couple times on the pro side. And I was instantly sort of hooked on everything. So I just went at it sort of hard and fast. I got my brother involved in judging, his wife, my dad, his wife. It was a whole family affair, really. It was soon became clear to me it was judging barbecue and meeting the different judges as you go to events, and then also doing what I wish more judges would do, which is to go hook up with teams after judging and get to know them better. It became like being part of a big RV family, right? Like, just get to know everyone. And when you're in other states or other places and those teams are going to be there too, you can kind of have little reunions. And that's just kind of how I've treated it all along and continue to do so.
That's awesome. Yeah, we talked to Chad Ward on what episode? Three? Yep. He's an awesome dude. But
yeah, I was listening to your podcast because I did this before. I would listen to podcasts to kind of prep for mine. And so I only did that with yours, actually. Then I stopped doing it because I was like, no, I'm just going to try to do my own thing.
Yeah.
But I listened to your Chad Ward episode and you guys were just kind of drinking, talking, shooting the shit and stuff. And it was funny to listen to them.
Yeah, I think that was with, if I recall correctly too, Griff was with him on that one.
Yeah.
And those guys back in the pit days, I mean, that was just solid gold. Yeah.
So I'm just curious, how many events have you judged? Like KCBS events? I should narrow that down a little bit.
I think I'm at like 41.
All right.
Wow.
So I'm not like, my brother was a crazy person. Like in a year, he's out of Colorado Springs, and in a year he got on planes and did like doubles and like, back when Lake Havasu had the big double they used to always do and stuff. And it's just, he got like 30 comps under his belt in like a year.
Wow.
Bro. Like in Florida, it's hard. There's like four or so KCBS comps regularly in Florida. So you kind of got to go out to Georgia and Alabama. And like, I've been up to Frisco and judged that a couple times, in Colorado with my brother Steve, and just kind of bounced around. There's a great event, Chili Harley Davidson up in Salisbury, North Carolina. Gary and those guys do a great job up there with their September event. And so about 40 something, 42 maybe on the KCBS side, and another, I don't know, maybe 40 something on the Florida Barbecue Association side, all told. Yeah.
Well, that's 40 more than I have.
And all that means is I'm a little fatter than some people, right? At the end of the day. Yeah.
What did Rusty say? 2X is a barbecue size medium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've worked my way back down to a large. I'm barbecue petite.
That's funny. I say my goal was to become. So my first goal was to become a master judge. It's still sort of there, and I want to do it. But man, I look at a sheet and I'm like, okay, there's a comp in Colorado. I can judge it, or I can cook it. I'm like, oh, cook it. Dang it.
That's a tough call. Yeah.
It's cheaper to judge it.
Oh, it's so much cheaper. Like, going out to, I was going to go and do that whole thing and do the SCA in Louisville for the National Barbecue and Grilling Association thing. And I was like, wait, I can judge. Hell yeah. So I'm going to go judge state competition. I've taken the class. I've never judged it.
That's a great way to go.
I just need to get out there and do more because I miss judging. It's just fun. I don't know. I just like it. It's just super cool.
Well, as a competitor, do you find that it helps you at all judging?
Oh, 100%. 100%. It actually puts me right back on my focus. So as a competitor, you get kind of tied up in what you're doing, and you'll taste other people's barbecue and someone will run over some to you, and, you get your neighbors and like, hey, try this. And it's cool. But when you're out there competing and then you do judging, you're like, oh, okay. Oh yeah. Okay. This, okay. And it kind of puts you back into that, balance, and you kind of snacks you back a bit. You're like, okay, cool. And then so your profiles don't change, but you kind of see what everyone's doing. You're like, oh, this would be a good idea. Mm-hmm. So you're always biting it, thinking about the judging at first. And then when you sit it down after, you're like, I should try that. That was a little spicy. I wonder how he got that spice. I wonder if I put some, what I'll do is I'll sprinkle a little cayenne on the bottom.
No, like the judging aspect is huge because my new team member, Trevor, he's joined me this year and he was a KCBS judge, and it's really awesome to have him on my team because he's like, oh, it needs to be a little bit sweeter. Oh, we need to add more heat to it. He actually can break it down to pretty much middle ground is what we're shooting for, right? So he brings a lot to the team, just being able to flavor like what he's looking for. And I give him sauces out of random, just not knowing what they're. He's like, oh, this is what's his, like he'll name the sauce. He's like, wow. He's really good at that. So it's an advantage to have somebody on your team that at least is judged.
Yeah, it's really an advantage. So I have a question for you, Kevin, about judging. So not a lot of people ask this question, and something that Lene brought up from Sugar's Barbecue, and it was like, it was such a good question. What makes bad barbecue to you?
All right, so I want to preface all this by saying that I do this, and I encourage every new judge I talk to do this. Like, if you're on so FBA starts at 10 and works down in half point increments. KCBS obviously starts at 9. Whatever that top score is, give the team the chance to start from there and work down, right? So appearance wise, it's not hard to get a top score from me. I just need to see care and attention. So I guess I'm going to talk about what makes it good and lead into the bad. So
perfect.
Care and attention of just placement. It's not, I don't go too crazy over, each piece of chicken looking like it was a clone of the other. You know what I mean? Like in size and exact shape. It's nice to see that, it's a color that it looks appetizing. Maybe a little sheen. I'm kind of focused on chicken here in my head, but bad barbecue to me, I got to say that I haven't come across a whole lot of it on the pro side. On the backyard side, what I find is that it's the stuff you hear judges complain about all the time, right? So maybe they're not maintaining their smoker very well. I think Daniel Vaughn with Texas Monthly had an article that was so great. He's like, yo, dog, that grill that you think is so well seasoned, it's gross, bro.
Yep,
it's disgusting. Like that's nasty. And that's the stuff that you can taste that. And some judges who are new might think it's like lighter fluid or whatever. It's like, nah, man, it's just soot and gross and disgustingness getting on food and impacting the taste. And so brisket entries, right? I mean, it happens. It boggles my mind, even in a backyard stage where a team is going to turn in a brisket entry and it's going to be like a totally, the flat slices are going to be from a totally untrimmed packer, right? And they're going to be kind of gray and cut with the grain. And you're just like, oh, man, guys, I feel bad for you because I'm not going to score this well. And there's so many free articles and videos out there that could have gotten you so much further than what you're doing here. And of course, the adage is that, oh, that must be a vendor's entry, right? Like that vendor was asked to submit a barbecue entry and they just slapped something in there. But just, maybe just not giving it the care and attention that I think all the barbecue cooks that I know try to give it in competition. I'm not sure I really answered your question effectively, but I think that's the best I can sum it up.
No, I think you did. And it's because it's just what you think, like for me, one thing about being a judge and a cooker I'm a cooker as a competitive cook.
There you go.
Is I can taste certain things. So, certain things that maybe I might use, or I'm like, oh, okay, I see what this is inside. I see what they've used. But you're right. Like with cooking, almost every single piece of bad barbecue as a judge I've had, you bite into it and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
What did you do, man? Did you take this out? Like, actually, if you slab, what I do is I rub it on the side of my smoker so I can get that. That's what it tastes like. That's what it tastes like they're doing. I see it in my head. He's like, hold on, this is my trick. Wah, 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 on the side. I'm like,
oh no,
that's because that's what I taste.
Well, then there could also be this deal where none of the flavors are necessarily bad, but they've broken out of that zone of having all the flavors kind of nicely melt together. So something spiking, right? Like it every now and again, it'll happen to a judge where they taste that first piece of chicken and it's got a lot of heat and the kind of heat that hangs with you, like through like 3 crackers and some water and some sandpaper and some Comet. It's just going to stay there with you like for days. And it sucks because instantly I'm mad at that cook because that cook is not going to get the best score from me because that heat it stands out. And so they didn't, I don't think, balance their flavors very well. But then it also makes me mad because the teams that I'm judging their chicken after that person, I'm going to try to do the best I can, but my mouth is literally on fire and I'm going to maybe need some medical attention. Right. So that's tough.
Right. Like, what's Kevin doing out there at the firehouse?
No,
I'm gonna need a minute, guys. I'll be right back. I'm the same way, but I'm sensitive to heat, and I'm not sensitive enough where I'm like, but if I get if it's too hot, man, you're right. I'm just like, I can't. I'm got to back up off this, because
I'm not talking about a nice warm Chipotle glow here. I'm talking like holy
ghost pepper
crap,
injection.
my mouth's on fire. Yeah,
Chicken wing challenge.
Yeah, exactly. That
Like, I'm not a
man meets
Buffalo
food.
Wild Wings
Yeah,
right now.
right. Yeah, man versus food. Yeah, right.
No, but Rusty, what I wanted to touch on just a little bit, kind of rewinding a little bit, is that whole, the seasoned grill. I think, well, I personally do. I clean my grill before every comp that I go to. I'll use it at home for home cooking and everything like that. But before I go to a comp, I get out there and scrape it and vacuum it out and get all those, I guess, just build up deposits, because they do affect your cook. And there's even just an over grease trap will cause the flavor.
I'm the same way. I clean all the time too. And my team, they're always making fun of me. I'm like, well, because we had this huge argument with the team about
you're too clean.
No, not that, but like, what's easier, a pellet grill or a drum?
Ooh.
And I'm like, it's easier for me to do the drum, and it's easier for me to do the pellet grill. And I'm like, well, because they don't really clean it that much. I go through the pellet grill and clean the crap out of it, so I'm taking all this stuff out. But with my drum, I'm just like scrape, done. So it's like kind of funny because they're pretty clean actually, but I'm much cleaner. I have to clean before every cook. That's just my jam, because I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of that guy. I've had that barbecue before where I'm like, and I've tasted the results. I've cooked when I haven't cleaned, and I know it tastes off because I didn't clean it.
Because it has that weird char flavor. I can't really explain the flavor, but it
tastes like Kevin said, like lighter fluid.
Exactly. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what it comes out of.
A dirty, like a dirty smoke flavor.
Yeah. So I'm obsessive with clean. I'm the same way. I clean my pits. We do the whole thing. We spray them down. Oven cleaner. They look like they're brand
I don't use
new.
oven cleaner just because if something doesn't get picked up, it kind of has that weird.
You don't like oven cleaner?
No.
It's delicious. You should try it.
I just
put a knife and
your
scrape
ribs, that special twang.
Really? I started spritzing with oven cleaner.
No wonder my teeth are so white.
I know, right?
That's right.
I haven't had a solid poop in 3 years, but it tastes delicious.
Oh man, you're
fantastic.
A mess.
But it doesn't have to be. So it doesn't have to be. Let's say they clean their smokers. Everything's good. They're using top quality ingredients, protein to rubs to sauces, but then it's the fine tuning between first place in a category and 14th, right? Where I think as cooks play around with chicken and they figure out there's maybe 2 windows of doneness, right? They're cooking it on the lower end, as my buddy Griff would like to say, they're kind of riding the lightning a little bit on it being sort of done, but mostly done, and maybe a little hedge of a little underdone, but just to get it at a tenderness that they want it to be at, to where they blow it out to like close to 200. If they're doing that level of heat, and I guess it depends also if you're going hot and fast or low and slow, but too much of any one little ingredient, even though they're trying real hard to use all the best stuff, can also kind of knock you out a little bit.
So I have this theory, and I tell people this sometimes. Like if you get the first judge, it's either really good or really bad. There was one, I've said this on the podcast, I think before, but if not, here we go. And if I have, it's a good story. But basically I was at a contest and I had chicken. It was the very first thing, and I bit into it. And my first thought was, okay, this isn't okay. Then I started judging it really, really harshly, for some reason, because you get there and you're nervous, and I'm not a 40 plus judge. I've only done 4. So I'm in a new state. I'm just super nervous, and I judge them an 8 on taste, even though it was obviously a 9, and I changed it, but I don't know. Do you think there's an advantage of placement, like first to last, because they'll end, and then they get the 6th person. Are they just so salted out? They're like, you know what? I don't even know what this tastes like.
Oh, I think there's taste bud fatigue. I mean, brisket, like we had a contest recently here in Florida where they actually they messed around with the order of entries. So brisket was first. And then it was, I want to say ribs, maybe, then chicken, and then pork or something. I forget the exact order, but it was so nice as a judge to get brisket first, because I'm not going to lie, I'm usually kind of waking up a little on the, people who know me know that on the weekends, I'm like the crypt keeper, man. I just stay in bed. It's hard to wake up in the mornings. And so I roll in, for that 9 o'clock judges meeting or whatever. haven't had a lot to eat, if anything. By the time chicken comes, or that first entry comes around, I'm freaking starving, right? So I'm all about, I've had to rein myself back because I'll just eat way too much on that first entry round. But yeah, the first, sometimes the first entry gets you, and you can catch yourself not careful being comparative when you're not supposed to be, right? You know, the goal is, especially with KCBS, you're lining all entries out on the mat and you're trying to give each individual entry its due, but we're humans, right? And there's always going to be a level of subjectivity involved. And I don't know, I'd probably be hard pressed to tell you that I've been successful ever at being completely objective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard. And it's like, everyone's like, well, it has to be so salty, the briskets. Cause you just went through 3 different meats, no one's tasted nothing now. They're just like, I just need something salty, something to stand out.
Yeah. But see, that's a thing. And okay, well, I'm cooking an A9 brisket, or I'm just cooking a Snake River black or whatever. Well, on the A9, I might, I hear cook teams talk about how, I'm going to vent the Cambro 3 times on this one, but this other kind of brisket, I'm not going to vent the Cambro. And just the way they use their tools to do all the things they do. And you talk about dusting the underside of things, like these guys are like fine grinding, rubs down in a coffee grinder and dusting the underside of each rib to make sure that the judge's tongue touches it and gets the right kind of, it's crazy, bro. I mean, it's like alchemy.
We
sometimes.
do that. Yeah, we do the dusting.
Yep.
Chicken, brisket, all of it. It's crazy.
But it's smart. I mean, you're thinking about the process at a level where I think maybe not everyone is. And hey, anything that gives you an edge, man.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's weird, man. Everyone's like, everyone's like, well, I want a recipe for your ribs. I'm like, you know what you're getting into?
Yeah.
Like just for the, it's 3 rubs just for the rub. It's 4 things for the injection. It's 2 more things for the whatever. It's 3 more things for the sauce. Then you have a dust. I'm like, bro, you're $100 into this or $150
for 2
into this one rib, Hey, sure you want to do that?
That's if you're just buying 3 really well-made products and doing your own mixing. I mean, are you guys doing that, or do you do everything from scratch?
No.
Yeah, people make shit better than I do, so I just trust them.
Yep, buy production run stuff.
Yeah, that's what I tell people to do too, man.
Yeah.
It's like there's too many good things out there to play with at first.
Yeah, and it's the consistency too. That's the biggest factor.
True.
Anyway, so we know about your KCBS judging. Let's talk a little bit about BBQ Beat a little bit.
Okay.
So, what got you into podcasting?
Well, so it got to where I couldn't keep up with posting relevant articles as much as I would like to. I kind of got a little tired of I felt myself getting sucked in every now and again to the list post, the top 10 barbecue recipes and top 10 this and 5 ways to blah. And I'm like, I can't do it anymore. And so I decided to go ahead and give podcasting a try because I like talking with people and getting to know their stories, the narrative behind why they do what they do. Everyone I ever interview, pretty much they know that I'm going to ask for their backstory. Sometimes they're like, nah, it's just too boring. Let's start here instead. And it's clear they don't really want to get into it. So I start where they want to start, and that's fine. But I just wanted to kind of, and I also got caught listening to different interviews with people in not just the competitive barbecue world, but the live fire cooking world, or people who enjoy doing things with, food products that are related to, whether they're farmers or, heritage food, sort of historians or what have you. And it's an NPR interview or whatever, and it's one of the short ones, right? And you're like, man, I'd like to hear more from this person. So I decided if I'm going to do this, I'm gonna make it long format. And I know that some people are like, bro, that was a really long interview. Like, that was super long. Like, and you can tell they're just like, and I wish it hadn't have been so long, Kevin. But It's as long as it needs to be to get the story. And, I've heard other people say I really enjoy, I had a long road trip and I plugged in a couple of your podcast episodes, and it was cool to just have something planned that I was interested in. And I don't know, it's just one of those things, but mainly the podcasting thing for me is a way to continually reach out to cool and interesting people like you guys, like many of the other people that I've actually interviewed myself. And I find myself actually focusing on that, especially times, and we spoke about this before, when you start to feel a little bit like getting the next episode out is like a mission instead of fun and enjoyable. So I go back and like, okay, why am I doing this? Oh yeah, it's to really kind of talk and get to know, talk with people, get to know their story and so on and so forth. And so that's kind of where I take it.
Right. It's kind of like we've talked to a couple of pro competitors. They're like, I hammered out 40 competitions a year, but then they just turned into like, I wasn't enjoying it. They had to reel themselves back and just
like 15 or 20.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that was Heath Riles. I mean, that interview I did with Heath, he's like, dude, I was burning up the road, man. And he's going out there banking GCs in a dual KCBS Memphis Barbecue Network competition and just killing it. But, he wasn't spending the time he wanted to with his family. And so he definitely decided to dial that back,
So you kind of cover the gambit on everything. I mean, you touched on, you touch on everything. It feels like you just did a really good one. I liked it a lot. This last one was halal and just interesting ways of cooking. Like you don't think about that, and you can learn a lot. I learned a lot from it, and I actually know it. I was like, this is great. So you also do competition stuff. You just kind of run the gambit on everything. So where did that process come from? Where were you like, well, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and like, this is where I'm heading. Do you stay within a parameter, or are you just like, man, whatever's interesting?
At first, I think it was kind of competition heavy because that's kind of where I was coming out of. To be honest with you, I think I got to thinking that not everyone is into competition barbecue, but a lot more people like just learning about cool stuff. If they're into cooking at all, they're probably interested in like where quality meats come from, right? They're probably interested in different processes of using some of the tools that they have on hand as far as grilling and live fire cooking is concerned. Maybe they're interested in, again, some of the storylines that go back, like with Hardette Harris out of Louisiana and Shreveport area. I fell in love with talking with her about the fact that she played a role in crafting a state meal for Louisiana, featuring a cuisine that's not, New Orleans Cajun based. It's more sort of like what I grew up eating in Virginia in the summers on family farms, like just good, solid freshwater fish, down home vegetables, that kind of stuff, and just celebrating those things and kind of making sure that people know that there's people out there that are doing that kind of cool stuff and enjoying it and sort of preserving those historical aspects of food cooking, preparation, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, you do stuff with like Angus beef guys. You just kind of get into. I like how you get into depth in certain things too. So it's super cool. Like I said, I listen to it a lot. Excuse me. But yeah, talking to Hank Shaw, that was a cool one too. I'm just a little jealous of that one. I use a lot of his recipes because.
And he's got back up on his podcast now. He has one out, the most recent one. Hank Shaw's podcast is on hunting grouse, and
that's the whole podcast.
Well, yeah.
Well, it makes sense because it's hard to hook grouse.
yeah. But that one episode is he talks to these guys from Alaska. He talks about how different grouse can be found in different habitats and how difficult they are to actually track and find. And there's like a short, tiny window. And I'm not going to go hunt grouse, but I really enjoyed learning about the process, and I kind of just enjoyed listening to their passion for it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I stole, what was it? His recipe for, was it jambalaya? So many years ago. That's how I got into him. I also like to hunt and fish too. And it was just cool because the dude can cook too. So I ate with it. He's good. So the podcast takes off. You're doing that, but you had a pretty successful blog before that. I mean, you did that for a little while and kind of got up there for a minute. And what was that about?
Well, I don't know. I used to not tell this story because it's so embarrassing, but now it's a cautionary tale. So I used to have a website called the BBQ Smoker Site, and that was based purely on like smoked barbecue related stuff. And I did a lot of, recipe stuff that I would find and curate from the web and giving credit to people and all that kind of stuff, doing reviews of products. And I had a lot of content rolling on that site, and I was ranking really well and keeping up with some of the bigger names out there as far as the rankings were concerned. And I had like some AdSense on there. I started making some money there, and some Amazon affiliate stuff. I was making some money there, and it got really fun because it was rolling along really well. And then all of a sudden my rankings started to slip. And, I think I was just, Google was making a lot of changes back then. And still to this day, if someone tells me they've figured out Google, I just laugh and walk away because, but I panicked. And so I scoured the internet and found what I thought was a reputable company to help me with my SEO. And they ended up spamming a lot of different websites and forums related to cooking or whatever with all my links and stuff. And Google just killed my site. Well, let's be fair. I killed my site. Google showed me the error of my ways by making that happen, showing me the results. I mean, deep dives on stuff I used to rank on page 1 for. Zip. Like I think I referenced, I was like Hoffa dead, like gone. Like no one knew where I was. Done. So there was a mourning period, gentlemen. I went through a dark place and I had to, figure out something else. So that's kind of how the BBQ Beat podcast was born. And it started kind of where that picked off. And then at some point I just couldn't keep up with the blogging, and I had to roll into the podcasting, like I said before.
All right. Well, the podcast has kind of popped off and it's done really well. It's taking you to cool opportunities like the Jack this past summer, right?
Yeah, that I'm just going to put it out there. Christy Vanover, you're my hero. Okay. Girls Can Grill. I am confident. She hasn't come out and said it exactly, but I'm pretty sure she put in a good word for me on that front. That was an experience this year, being able to go up to Lynchburg and judge that event. It was at the very top of my bucket list events to ever judge. And the only one beside that really that I feel like I really need to check off is like the maybe the Royal Invitational, right? But to me, honestly, I mean, all the teams cooking at the Jack, whether domestic or international, they're amazing. And we could go on and on about the teams cooking there. But the starstruck moments for me really happened in that judge's tent, walking around and sort of rubbing elbows with all the greats. I got lucky enough to sit at, the same judging table as Mr. Pat Burke. And I mean, come on, man. Like,
right? Mike Mills and Pat Burke, dude, they're Illinois legends.
Yeah. Mike Mills was at a table just next to mine. So yeah. And and the stories that these guys are telling, you just kind of shut up. If you're smart, you shut up and you listen, right? And you just take it all in, and they do cool stuff. Like they hand you an apron, this big black apron, and a silver sort of metallic Sharpie. And everyone goes around and gets everyone to sign everyone else's apron, right? So you have signatures from all these amazing people on this commemorative thing you can then take home and kind of have hanging around. And it's a really cool deal. Honestly, if you told me that next year all I was going to be able to do was go and judge and spend time with all those great, wonderful people, and then I would be forced to sort of go straight home, I'd probably still go judge it, because just being around those folks was really amazing. And I had never seen, you guys know that many competitions have ancillary events, like whether they call it anything but, or chef's choice, or desserts, or whatever. But man, I mean, the anything but category or chef's choice here was just that stuff. I mean, trays of each judge getting like an entire tomahawk steak or whatever. And then, oh, by the way, later you're going to judge 4 categories of barbecue, right? and the desserts, like one of the desserts that hit our table was a carrot cake. You know how carrot cake can sometimes have a cream cheese layer or two dividing the layers of cake.
Mm-hmm.
This had sort of the cream cheese icing on the top, the carrot cake, then like an entire piece of cheesecake.
Oh.
And then another piece of carrot cake. It was just, everything was just over the top. Like,
it's like 3 feet tall.
It was ridiculous. Yeah. And you really got to rein yourself in. Just keep telling yourself like small bites, like little bits. And, but just the experience and the people who organize that event, the marketing guys that work with Jack Daniels, Proper, all those people, just such first class people, the nicest folks. And it's all super like genuine. Nothing comes across as artificial or sort of like perfunctory. You feel like you're appreciated when you're there, not just because they give you like a 30-pound bag of judge swag with, I'll say it, some drinkable treats inside that I really appreciated. But it's just, it's one of those deals where, I'm happy if I go to a contest and they give me a pencil with the name of the contest on it, just to say thanks, but
right.
This was over the top. And it was really nice that, several of my good friends were there as well. Like, Chris Grove with Nibble Me This. That's definitely a guy you should check out. He has a lot with certified Angus beef. Craig Tabor, he's formerly sort of known widely as a Big Green Craig. He's actually got a book on Kamado cooking coming out. It's a pre-order on Amazon right now. And being there with those two guys was pretty cool. And then just, again, Chef Michael Ollier and all those guys with Cab and just, Brian Schaff was up there, and it's great. I don't presume. I hope to get invited back again. Right. People's like, oh, once you're in for life. I'm like, I'm not taking that for granted. I'm just going to cross everything I can cross, right? Fingers, toes, and, nose hairs, whatever I got to do to get there. But that was a blast. Rain and all, don't care. They did move it up. Did you hear that? They moved up to 8.
Yeah, because it's raining all the time.
Yeah, I was going to say the weather was horrible, and it looks like they took care of you guys pretty well, though. Got you some good tents out there and everything.
It's going to rain anyway. If you're anything like me, it's going to rain. It doesn't matter.
That's right. You bring the gear and you make it happen.
Right?
Yeah.
Christy, if you're out there, listen, Christy, you beat me in brisket 3 times.
Yeah.
You owe me this. Get me in.
Help a brother out.
So,
me too. Come on.
Right. Whatever. But that's cool, man. We hope our friends Crooked Pigs, they're in. The Jack. They got a draw. They're not in. They got a draw. Sorry. Yeah. So they might go. But that's our goal, is to, my first goal always was the Royal, but man, the Jack.
Yeah, the Jack is where it's at.
That would be what's up. I can't drink alcohol. So
that'd be horrible. Luckily, it's a dry town. Right.
But so talk about the contest and the judging spots. You come in and all that stuff. Is it just like the same? Just so this is what I was trying to ask here. You said there's a lot of celebrity judges. Is that kind of the thing? Is it's because I have jazz season tickets, right? And there's a place called the 100 Club, and the rule is if someone dies, you get in.
Okay.
Is that similar?
Yeah, I think as far as there's a healthy blend of people who I would consider to be sort of celeb VIP judges and people who I think have maybe more of a solid grasp on what the world of competition barbecue is really about. Maybe they're just like master judges and above, or they've more importantly, been that and cooked a whole lot, or maybe even cooked the Jack themselves. Right. And so at that point, you're looking at a situation where, at our table, for instance, I think it was maybe a couple people who might fall in the celebrity category, and everybody else there had some pretty decent experience. But it's a lot like down here. There's the Lakeland Pig Fest in Lakeland, Florida, every year. There's people who have judged that event for double-digit years, right? But that's the only event they ever judge, ever, right? So to me, it's always kind of a weird event because teams are being judged by people who haven't judged a lot in different scenarios and settings. So I often wonder if that skews the results a little bit, not good or bad, but just makes it maybe a little bit more unpredictable. I don't know. What do you guys think about situations like that? When I think the Jack is a lot more spread out, but you do have those events. Maybe you've cooked at them where they got their local crew and that's who always judges it. And I realize I'm going a little bit off topic, but as cooks, I want to get your take. If you're rolling in and you know that it's like home cooking kind of every time, right? Like those judges only cook that event or only judge that event. And is that different than having an event where judges are sort of widely experienced and a little bit more, I don't know, barbecue worldly?
I don't know. It'd be hard.
Yeah.
I guess that's the equivalent of all of Arizona.
Right.
Because I don't know what that is. It's a black pit of judging for Utah teams. I don't know what it is. Maybe that's all they do is just judge the Arizona teams. But I think it would be weird, you know, if I'm not from there, or maybe if I'm from there and I get to know the judges and say, hey, you know, Joe, Barb, come over to my house. You know, I'm going to do a comp. Tell me what you think. You know,
quote unquote practice.
There's kind of an advantage if you live there because if you get to know these people, they'll come over and there's no rules against it. You know, like come on over and try it. What do you think? It's not spicy enough. All right, there you go. Gonna crush Pig Fest this year, you know. But then a team coming in, that would be lame, man.
Right.
Because I don't want to up my whole thing just for one contest. That would be you better hope that it just works for you. And if it doesn't, I don't know if it will. So it's a little frustrating.
Do you change your profiles around as you go from state to state, or do you kind of roll the same deal?
This is kind of an ignorant statement. I know that because I might change my mind. But I'm from Utah. I know a lot of people here that are from Maryland, that are from Vegas, that are from California, that are from Washington, that are from Idaho, that are from Minnesota, that are from New York. You know, they didn't get their taste buds from Utah. So
True.
I don't know if it matters too much. I really don't.
Yeah.
You know, I think some people say they like it spicy here and there. I might get, you know, because that's what they're getting inundated with. But I think besides that, I don't know if it's too big of a deal.
Right. Well,
because look at getting basted. He might switch stuff up, but Brad's not going around switching up. He came to Utah, had the same cook. You know, I took his class and he had the same thing. So I don't know. He wasn't switching anything up when he came here.
Well, I think it's a lot to do with the judging too. You know, like the past 2 seasons in Utah, everybody was really consistent. The judging was really consistent across the board. Certain people were getting the same calls. You know, it was really consistent. But this summer, we're actually having a KCBS class in the area, so I think it's going to shake it up. You never know what's going to happen next year, so I think it changes every KCBS class that's within the area.
Right.
I think because you're getting a whole bunch of new palates out there. People from you never know. They moved from California and they want to get into it, and they've learned that they like chili on everything out there. You know, you never know.
It's ranch here. We serve a side of ranch with all of our barbecue.
Some fry sauce.
Oh wow!
Fry sauce is ours. If people don't know, ketchup and mayo or mayo chip. You know, that's a Utah thing. We invented it.
Yep,
it's important. Everyone knows that.
So I have you to thank for walking on my Florida-based Walmart store and seeing mayo chip now on the.
You do, and you're welcome.
Yeah,
and
Thank
you're
you,
welcome.
Utah.
Take it, open it, and just drink it, man.
No, don't do that. Enjoy it. No, enjoy it with some
mainline the mayo chip.
That's what we do. If you want to be a true Utah, you're mainlining that stuff. You dry it up and you snort it before bed. It's delicious. No, it's not cocaine. It's mayo chip. Oh, mayo chip hurt. I do that too.
That and it's like, it's crazy. Whatever.
So you've done a lot. You've talked to a lot of people. So what are some of the things you've learned? I mean, what's kind of stuff that you've done in your podcast? By the way, just to point out to the listeners now, there is Kevin has on the BBQ Beat podcast has episode where you go and you talk to all the people, including Pat Burke at the Invitational. It's a really cool episode because you talk about your experience there and you go around and you interview people that are there too. So if you want to go listen to that, I highly suggest it's a really good listen. Probably my favorite of your episodes. So it's a really good one. But that said, on podcasts, kind of roll back to that a bit. Out of all the people you talk to, what are some of the things that you kind of just like, wow, like people have to know this because that was so legit?
So I come from a military family. I did not serve in the military, but my dad and my brother both retired. Dad, Army, brother, Air Force. And so one of the most impactful experiences I've had, and I've been there for 2 years now, is the Comfort Farms Boucherie event that takes place in Milledgeville, Georgia at Comfort Farms that was started up by John Jackson and his family. And John's story of coming out of the Army as an Army Ranger and doing the work he did for our country, and then struggling through some of the things he dealt with, and talking with me in that episode about the journey from growing up to joining the military after 9/11 to serving, to getting back home, going through breakups with family members and multiple marriages, and getting to a situation now where he realized that farming was a way for him to sort of be mission centric again, and really get into a mode where he was creating instead of destroying, right? And working into a point where he was also using that not only to help himself, but to provide a venue for other vets to do the same. And, I think it's an easy call. That's one of the episodes that means probably the most to me as far as just like personally, experientially. You said these last guys, but Halal Barbecue Pitmasters. I teach world history at a high school, and some world mythology and humanities courses at a local college here in Central Florida. And I love learning about different cultures and the way they come about, their food origins, if you will, and celebrating those and generating a sense of community around food. And it was just cool talking with those guys. Their passion about, the way they prep their food. Some of the dishes they come up with and the way they utilize tools in ways that I've never considered using a big green egg like a tandoori oven. Like it never. Once they said it, I was like, oh yeah, it makes total sense. But it's not something that crossed my mind to do. Right. So just opening up conversations and dialogues. And as far as that goes, that was a pretty cool one too. Yeah.
That's funny. Cause I went to my wife and said, cause I've always wanted one. So I just listened to a podcast and they said if they got a green egg that they can do some like different tandoori stuff in it. And she's like, hey, you're not getting a green egg. Because she's just converted to Indian food. And I was like, look at all the stuff we could do. Think about it.
Make some naan in there.
Yeah.
Dude, seriously, you should go to their website and print out like one of their recipes where they have like a nice like yogurt marinade for their meat and different stuff, and just lay it on the counter and see if she like notices it. It's like, hey, I'd love to make this for you, honey. I'm going to need a little bit of help on the tool side. We can work something out.
You never know. It might work. Maybe I'll have a listen to the podcast.
It might work, but Kevin, you also might be totally full of crap, and it's not going to work at all. So yeah,
it's funny because I get all these cookers, and it takes a minute to do it. And she doesn't listen to the podcast, so I can say this: I act and ask for forgiveness. I'm just like, oh, it's like when I was a kid when I used to bring cats home. I don't know, Mom, we just let it go, I guess, in the street if you want. It's going to die, but whatever, that's on you. Or we can keep the kitten. Yeah. That's what I do is like, I don't know. I lost the receipt. I don't even remember where I bought it. I took a lot of Advil because I had a headache. I don't know where it came from. You can go find out, babe, if you want. It's kind of like my steps.
It's like walking in your house today. There's 5 chickens.
Oh, that's a funny story real quick. I love chickens. And I went to the store to grab feed for my chickens because I have chickens in the backyard. And they had the stupid chickens, the baby ones. I'm like, looking at them. You know what? I'll take one. 5 later, I have 5 chickens.
Oh, yeah.
I have 5 chickens.
Well, you just kind of, grab and go.
We don't grow up, we really don't. We think that we're adults and we think that we're all that cool.
Yeah.
I just literally brought chickens home like I brought a cat to my mom when I was 9 years old.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I got a good buddy who has chickens, and man, one of them passed away just the other day.
It's sad.
Lily. She was a beautiful bird too, man. He was so sad. I was like, damn it. You get attached to those suckers, man.
Oh, it's bad. I had a cold one the other day, and I was like, I can't. I had to go out at night with my knife, and just I couldn't see, and just feel out where its head was.
Oh man.
Hope no one's eating when we're doing this, but
Right,
I was a little depressed.
Right.
I had to watch some stand-up comedy to get back on my feet.
Yeah.
Nice.
One more episode that I really appreciated the chance to do is the Sam Jones one at Fox Brothers Barbecue. Talking with, first of all, getting the tour of what Fox Brothers has done in Atlanta with their commissary for catering purposes. That place is just, I mean, as a chef, honestly, this is high level, like New York level catering quality.
Oh, this is the one where they do like
set up.
750 people or something like that, right?
Ridiculous. Yeah. And
I remember that one.
Blast chillers and all kinds of crazy stuff. And then I think they have like 2 Oilers and an Old Hickory back there, and it's just nuts. But Sam was there with Michael Letchworth, and just the most down to earth, solidly good dude. Real, just non-assuming, friendly. It's just a blast to talk with all those people.
Yeah, if you're thinking about catering, that's an interesting one to look into because when I was listening, I remember listening to it going, damn, that's a lot. And I like how they have the 65 people can all do the same thing. I remember that. Yeah, I remember that one. Oh. That's a good one.
Oh, and there was also the one with the Lee brothers and the book they wrote.
Oh, is that about getting mixed catering?
Up? Yeah, I think that. Okay, yeah, and they were talking about the concept of the chef completo, where every chef has soup to nuts skills, so you can interchange them like an army. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I have a bad memory, so recalling for me is weird. My brother and I love. I'm actually a huge history fan, so that's what we have in common there. Huge history fan. I'll read books on George Washington. The Revolutionary War is my favorite period. I'll read books all the time, and I'll forget it. My brother can retain all of it, and it's crazy. So, oh yeah, actually, I would love to do that. So I'm a little scatterbrained. So yeah, listen. There's the catering episodes for sure. I agree with you. I have to listen to the Fox one again, box, so I can get that.
The
back.
book is that the Lee brothers was called Hot Box. To me, it's like the Anthony Bourdain Kitchen Confidential for caterers. Yeah, so definitely check that. And the audio version's great. I'm a big audiobook guy, and the Lee brothers actually narrate the book, which made it cool.
Hold on, I'm gonna write that down. Nice. So Hot Box is called.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's how I actually got started, was listening to that Anthony Bourdain book, because I'm a huge Jack Kerouac fan, and I listened to Kitchen Confidentials. I'm like, I'm gonna be a chef. That's it. That's where I started. So a little history about me.
Dude,
nice.
No, I get it. That was fantastic. Did you ever? I was Bill Buford, I think his name is, wrote a book called Heat. H-E-A-T.
About Mario Batali. That's a good one.
That was a great book too, where he goes to Italy and gets hooked up with that crazy charcuterie butcher maniac guy. It was fantastic.
Yeah, but that actually kind of made me not want to be a chef, because it's a great book and it's really romanticized, but at the same time it gets into it, man. So. Yeah. It's crazy.
I need to start reading more books.
Yeah, you do. Well, I can't read shit, so I audiobook everything.
Yeah, I guess.
So.
Yeah, you need to shoot me some recommendations.
Yeah.
I will, dude. Yeah. Listen. There's I can't remember the actor, but he reads. Read the Anthony Bourdain does his own for Rich Kitchen Confidential. It's a really good book. Period for anyone.
Yeah, it's good.
So cool, man. Well, we thank you so much for coming on the show. We've been trying to do this for a while. I'm glad we were able to get you on. You guys go out and listen to the BBQ Beat podcast. It's a really, really, really good. A lot of different stuff. You're going to find something that you like in one of the episodes, guaranteed.
Right.
And even if you don't, you'll be surprised on what you learn on this stuff that you might not be. Like, I listen to it and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, so where else can they find you at, Kevin?
Just on social. Instagram is just BBQ BEAT, BBQ Beat. Facebook, I don't know what happened, but I had to be the BBQ Beat there. Somebody got me. I couldn't get here fast enough. But mainly, just the main website is just bbqbeat.com for episodes, and then obviously, like you guys, I mean, it's a beautiful thing where we're all kind of out there on all the different audio platforms for our podcast and stuff. So it's great. And guys, listen, hey, if this is the first time you've ever caught these guys, get on this podcast. Gentlemen, you're doing a great job. It's a pleasure to talk with you, and I look forward to seeing everything. Telling you, the Tuffy Stone episode, I'm just genuflecting to you both now, because that was That was amazing.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I was like, I got nervous my first 3.
Yeah.
And then that one I got nervous on.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Well, the thing is like I was saying, like I started watching Tuffy Stone, you know, the on the barbecue pit masters, and I was like, that was like one of my inspirations to learn how to actually start cooking and getting into it, and then being able to interview him was like, whoa,
it was cool.
This is real.
Well, all right, man.
You guys did a
awesome.
great job.
Yeah, just one more question before you leave. What days do your podcast drop so people are looking for those new episodes?
They're pretty sporadic.
So that's where I am the worst podcast in the world.
So subscribe and it'll email you when it drops.
Because you have an email list.
Yeah,
that people can get.
Sorry,
I do, and it's terrible. I really should be better about that. But I have another one that I've been meaning to get out with my good friends from the barbecue shop out of Norway near Oslo, and it's coming out tomorrow if I can make it happen. But sorry everyone, my scheduling is like me waking up on the weekend. It just happens when it happens. Yeah.
Tomorrow will be a couple weeks back for this podcast, but
so make sure you guys go out there and subscribe. That way you'll be able to know when his new episodes do drop.
Do it. It's worth it.
Please and thank you. Yes, please and thank you.
Awesome, man. Well, we appreciate your time.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Listen, thanks so much.